Coming up, we'll have a full report on Sunday's devastating loss in San Francisco. At 33 years old, he's putting up the biggest numbers of his career. We'll talk to three-time Pro Bowl linebacker Sam Mills. Plus, Saints on wheels. We'll show you some Saints vehicles of choice. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but at least Saints Sideline is next.
Saints Sideline, brought to you by Midas. Nobody beats Midas. Nobody. Your local Isuzu dealer. Budweiser. Nothing beats Saints football, and nothing beats a Bud. And by Lennox. It must be a Lennox.
This is an exclusive presentation of WGNO Sports. Ed Daniels, Alexander Laurent, Saints Sideline.
Hello, and thank you for joining us on Saints Sideline. I'm Alexander Laurent.
And I'm Ed Daniels.
And Randy Cross on CBS called it a gut-wrenching defeat, but that's probably the best way to describe Sunday's loss to San Francisco.
He was laughing inside, though, all those smug 49ers.
Yeah.
They were able to turn their noses up on the Saints again, but the Saints looked impressive for 3 quarters, but down 13 points in the 4th quarter. Steve Young led the 49ers on a Joe Montana-like comeback, and the Saints fell 21-20.
Another galling 1-point defeat to the 49ers. The Saints know the feeling all too well. The script of facts from previous years. Saints outplay them, lead into the 4th quarter. 49ers rally and win. The winner this time, an 8-yard pass from Steve Young to Brent Jones with 46 seconds left.
Touchdown! Every time we play these guys, it's supposed to be the Saints time, but things happen. You got to live and die with it, and hey, this is going to be a hard pill to swallow. I really believe in it. A lot of other guys feel the same way I feel, and right now I just feel like somebody just died.
The Saints led 20-7 as Bobby Hebert exploited the 49ers secondary for 301 yards passing, including scores of 22 yards to rookie Torrance Small and 11 yards to Dalton Hilliard. It was right there for the Saints to take. A 1-game lead in the division, a chance to break the big game hex. But instead, the Saints will have to live again with the label of a club that can't win games like this one.
Proved today that it was true. I mean, we had our chance to win. We had a 13-point lead, and we blew it. Let this team come back and beat us, and this should never happen. All indication that we had the game won the whole game. And to come up the last quarter and let them get 2 touchdowns, that's terrible.
Sports writers in San Francisco have seen comebacks like Sunday's many times. Here's what they're saying. Ray Rattle of the San Francisco Examiner writes, in short, the status quo of the last 6 years remains in force. New Orleans is good, but San Francisco is better. Perhaps the best there is, perhaps not, but certainly better than the Saints. As the Saints ought to know all too well, the only way to kill the 49ers is to kill them over and over and over again, because they don't stay down after the first 3 or 4 groin shots. And the Saints? Well, what's one more miscongeniality trophy for the manhole? Their clock management at the end of each half was, as usual, abominable. They left the field with 5 of their 6 timeouts unused, perhaps saving them for the plane ride home.
In the locker room, coaches and players were trying to explain how this one slipped away. But before the game was over, they were looking for explanations from referee Jerry Markbright and the men in stripes.
After this stinging defeat to the Niners, one Saint blew the whistle on the officials.
They just got scared. I don't know if it, you got to call it a homer. I mean, they were scared to make the calls. I don't understand. I just don't understand. I mean, it was horribly officiated at the end.
On the 49er game-winning drive, watch. Was Toi Cook pulled down here?
And the pass is incomplete, and Toi Cook is down there on the field screaming and yelling at the officials. Toi Cook has claimed that he was held downfield.
He grabs me on the sideline, and the ref, excuse my language, the ref is sitting right there and doesn't make the call.
5-yard line.
After the 49ers scored to take the lead, Fred McAfee returned the kickoff. Tackled by Mike Kofer out of bounds.
Should they have flagged Kofer on McAfee's kick return?
For hitting him late? Yeah, I don't know. I was not sitting up, you know, I wasn't close to the situation, but some of our coaches obviously felt like they should have because they were complaining to the officials.
Then on the game's final play, Richard Cooper was hit out of bounds by Thane Gash. Saints assistant Vic Fangio went ballistic. The flag stayed in the officials' pockets. Away from the cameras, Coach Jim Mora had a few terse words for referee Jerry Markwright. The lead man and a crew choosing to keep their flags in their pockets.
Up next, we'll go one-on-one with the field mouse, All-Pro linebacker Sam Mills.
And later, Saints on Wheels. Stick around for more of Saints Sideline.
To no one's surprise, Sam Mills is once again the Saints' leading tackler. With 7 Sunday, Mills now has 74 on the year, on a pace for the most in his career. At 33 years old, he appears well on his way to his 4th Pro Bowl.
I think it's been going pretty good for me, pretty consistent. I played, I think, at least up to the standards that I played it last year. Other than the fact that I don't have the interceptions, that's the one thing I miss, interceptions, being able to run with the football. As far as tackles are concerned, I think I'm at least right on the mark with that. And you know, things like sacks, we just don't get many of those. I have 2, but you know, that's like a high for a year, really. I think we're a pretty balanced team. We have some guys that are capable of making some big plays for us throughout the offense and defense, especially the guys on defense who I know a little better than the offensive guys because I'm always with those guys in meetings and all. And I really believe in those guys. And when you look at our team, you see a lot of different guys shining every week. You don't see the same players doing it all the time.
That was a nice job by Sam Mills. He's a linebacker that probably doesn't get the attention playing with guys like Swilling and Jackson and Vaughn Johnson. But that's the quarterback of the New Orleans Saints defense.
The frustrations of a loss are dealt with in many ways. Sam says he lets go immediately.
I can leave it in the locker room or on the field, and when I get home, I can basically forget about it, or I might see it, maybe say on the highlights or something, and then I start thinking about it again. But for the most part, I'm able to kind of forget about it. I guess because there's a lot of other things going on with the wife and 3 kids. They'll give you some other things to think about.
Regardless of the Pro Bowl appearances, in the back of his mind, there is only one final destination.
Playing the Super Bowl. That would be the most exciting thing that can happen. That's the thing that this team is working for. This is the thing that I'm looking forward to. And because, you know, I'm running out of time to play in a Super Bowl, and I'd like for it to happen quickly. And that's the ultimate.
A couple of weeks ago at Pro Football Weekly listed the NFL players who would make the best coaches, and Sam Mills was on that list. You know, Sam was a former teacher.
I guess that qualifies him then, huh? What do you think about Mike Singletary? He was also on the list, a good player, and both linebackers. Jim Mora has said that he thinks Sam Mills would make a great coach, and he'd love to have him on his staff if that's what Sam decides to do after his playing days are over. Of course, we're told that retirement is still several years away.
Quite a few years away. Up next, the Saints' choice of wheels. Stay with us for more of Saints Sideline. It's safe to say that athletes in the 90s are well compensated for their troubles. Most players have enough money to buy just about any automobile they choose, but interestingly enough, they don't all go for the flashy sports cars. Thea Winick shows us the Saints' wheels of choice.
So what's life like as a pro football player? Well, first you sign the big contract. Then maybe you buy yourself some new clothes, a place to call home, and definitely some Hot Wheels.
So what kind of car gets these Saints players behind the wheel? Well, for some, only the luxury of an automobile like this one will do.
For Gene Atkins, the convertible Mercedes is the way to go.
Especially when I have the top down, and it just feels like you're in a different class in a different world. It just feels good when you ride it.
A lot of these players seem to resemble their vehicle of choice. Big strapping wide bodies opt for, well, big strapping wide body.
I got the truck because of the roads, and I liked it, and it looks like me. It's big, it's pretty, and it got a nice engine, and it runs well, and it keep on running, you know.
Big guys, the linemen, they like the big trucks, and the little guys like me, the wide receivers and the defensive backs, we get the small Ford Explorers, the little Rangers and stuff.
Lots of gadgets and doodads are popular with Saints players. These fleur-de-lis, which are traditionally found on players' helmets, are a big hit, as are snazzy license plates, some with bold statements, others simply towing the company line. And yet, in this world of car phones, bazooka speakers, and remote control car alarms, you find yourself a Frank Wainright.
Yeah, it's no back seat. It's got a big tire. That's about all I have in there. I gave Eric Martin a ride in it once, and I think he was a little shocked. He's afraid the tire was going to come up and hit him.
So the bottom line seems to be that whatever vehicle these guys fancy, there'll be a driving force both on and off the field. I'm Thea Winick for Saints Sideline.
A Mercedes convertible for you, huh? You couldn't pay the note. All right, back to football. Despite a tremendous fourth quarter comeback by the 49ers, the Saints still had a chance to win the game at the end. But with under a minute to play, poor clock management cost the Saints dearly.
Trailing 21-20, the Saints started at their own 30 with 46 seconds left. After one completion, the Saints didn't use one of their remaining 3 timeouts, letting precious seconds tick away.
Our plan going into that series was to run 2 plays and then call timeout. And so that's what we did, and it probably would have been smarter on my part to call a timeout after that first play.
I don't control that. I just do what I'm told and just go from there.
It's called from the bench, right?
Yeah.
Up next, more from Sunday's heartbreaking loss to San Francisco.
And we'll go back to 1978 when Wes Chandler and the Saints owned, that's right, owned the 49ers. Steve Young is one of those quarterbacks who have had a hard time earning respect. Before Sunday's game in San Francisco, the talk was about Joe Montana working out. But thanks to number 8's effort Sunday, the 49ers are now the best in the West.
Saints had 4 sacks. Against most NFL quarterbacks, that total could have been doubled. But the Saints were pursuing Steve Young, and Young won. He scrambled. He ran by design. Steve Young was the difference in the 2 hotly contested games the 49ers and Saints played this year.
He took off and ran down there a few times, but today we just had a hard time, wrapping him up back there, and he would scramble around, bide some time, and then throw the ball or else run. But this guy, it's a big factor. I mean, otherwise you got a sack.
Young put together 2 fourth-quarter Joe Montana-like drives. In San Francisco, they breathe easier and sit in the NFC West driver's seat thanks to Steve Young.
Except for the strike-shortened 1982 season, the Saints and 49ers have met twice a year since 1970. With Sunday's win, the Niners have now swept the Saints in the season series 11 times. The Saints have only swept San Francisco twice. The first came back in 1978 with a former 49er running the show, as Dave Garrett shows us in this week's Great Games in Saints history.
Matchup number 1 came in Week 7. First-year Saints coach Dick Nolan was making his return to San Francisco, where he had led the 49ers to 3 division titles. Nolan's running game was working, with Saints Hall of Famer Tony Galbraith carrying the load. Mike Strawn's touchdown gave the Saints a 7-point lead, and that's all the flex defense needed. The Saints battered 49er quarterback Steve DeBerg and running back O.J. Simpson all afternoon. The defense held San Francisco to just 1 score as the Saints took Game 1 14-7. Game 2 came 7 weeks later in the Superdome as the Saints defense was panting at the thought of another shot at the 49ers. Once again, San Francisco couldn't get their offense on track. This Ray Brown interception set up a Saints touchdown, as Dave LaFari led Chuck Muncie around left end for the score. After that, it was all rookie Wes Chandler. This catch was ruled a touchdown, but there was no doubt about Chandler's other score. On the screen, Chandler shows why the Saints had picked him in the first round, as he makes a spectacular run. The Saints won this one 24-13 to complete the first ever sweep of the 49ers. Dick Nolan also swept 2 games from his former team in 1979. While in New Orleans, he ran up a record of 4-1 against San Francisco, making him the only coach in Saints history with a winning record against the 49ers. From San Francisco, Dave Garrett for Saints Sideline.
There's still a lot more to come on Saints Sideline. Next, we'll update the playoff picture and look ahead to the Monday Nighter with the Redskins.
Barry Manufacturing, America's best men's clothing value.
Sunday's win puts the Niners in firm control of the West with 6 games to go. The Niners' 8-2 mark is now tied for the best in football. They'll play the Rams in Los Angeles Sunday. The Saints are 7-3 with the next 3 games at home. The Falcons squeaked by Phoenix to move their record to 4-6, and the Los Angeles Rams pulled off one of the biggest upsets of the season Sunday when they beat Dallas 27-23. Among the NFC's top 6 teams, San Francisco was the only one to win Sunday. The Vikings lost to Houston, but still have a huge lead in the Central. And despite losing to the Rams, Dallas has a 2-game lead in the East. The Saints are the conference's best wildcard team heading into the Monday Nighter with Washington. Despite losing big in Kansas City, the Redskins are still the second-best wildcard team at 6-4. And the Eagles blew a chance to make up some ground by losing to Green Bay. Philadelphia now lost 4 of their last 6 games.
Up next for the Saints are 3 games in 11 days. That stretch starts Monday night in the Superdome against the world champion Washington Redskins. The 2 teams last met in November of 1990 at RFK Stadium. Third quarter, Redskins leading by 7. Mark Rippon throws 19 yards to Gary Clark. Rippon riddled the Saints defense for 311 yards and 4 touchdowns. Meanwhile, the Saints were their own worst enemies. This Darrell Green INT, one of 3 pickoffs by the Redskins. Jim Mora's coach Saints have never beaten the Washington Redskins. Skins won it 31-17. A bigger mystery in Washington this year than the presidential election is what happened to the Redskin offense. Mark Rippon has played very poorly through 10 games, and the record 6-4 shows it simply not up to the usual Redskin standards.
Offensively, the difference is between night and day, and it's amazing the difference a year can make. But right now, Ed, because of the wild card implication, this is a really big one. The Saints are in line to host a first-round playoff game, but a loss to Washington would knock them right out of the position.
So we'll see how it works out. The Saints will either be reeling or they'll recover. Meanwhile, 80 other football teams in Louisiana will be in must-win situations this weekend. Of course, we're talking about high school football as the state playoffs hit week 2. We'll have all the action on Friday Night Football, Friday night at 10:30, right here on WGNO 26. I'm Ed Daniels.
I'm Alexander Laurent. We'll see you next week on Saints Sideline.
It's a shame we came up a little bit short. We played a good game, a real good game. They were a little bit better, not much, a little bit. They're a fine football team. Their offense is very tough to contain for 60 minutes. I'll tell you the thing that I think gives this team a dimension that I don't think any other team in the National Football League has, and that's the ability of their quarterback to run. We just couldn't get him tackled back there. I mean, we had pretty good pressure, and if it's a normal quarterback, we're getting some sacks. But he isn't a normal quarterback.
It's just frustrating. We had an opportunity to win the game, and we didn't. You got to make the plays. That's the bottom line. It's no magic. It's just execution and making the plays.
Well, the defense like we got, you don't really look for the offense there. The defense pulled out. We didn't make them kick one field goal somewhere down the road. When they got the 2 touchdowns, we had a good enough defense to make them kick a field goal. And, I'd say a lot of people might not say it, but after Breck went out the game, you got a veteran like that. He played a big part in that secondary. And after Breck went out the game, I think things kind of, somebody else had to pick it up, and Gene tried real hard, but, we beat ourselves. We got them down 13 points going into the last quarter, and we just shut down, So, we beat ourselves. We got 2 touchdowns. So, basically, we just beat ourselves.